YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, back in Total War Warhammer 2, yes, with some more Skaven action from my last stream. And this one, myself and Senshi the Prophet are going to be facing off against the undead armies of Professor Pone, and yes, Turin, the same Turin who hosts all the tournaments and helps to commentate the Ever-Chosen tournaments. So yeah, we're going to be having a fun face-off here. I expect that both these players are going to be bringing some fun stuff. And let me show you the armies here. Like I said, I played Skaven all night, and on this particular matchup, I've brought Throt the Unclean on foot because of his anti-large and just making him a little harder target in case there's any gooning that goes on from the undead. I've got a Packmaster here again with anti-large to help support that, and then I have a Warlock Engineer with Warp Lightning and Howling Warp Gale. I do have a couple of Warp Lock Jezzails, a Warp Lightning Cannon, Hell Pit Abomination, one Storm Vermin, one Council Guard Storm Vermin, then some Clan Rats and Skaven Slave Spears up front. Senshi is rocking a Warlord with an Eshin Sorcerer with some spells at his availability. You can see that he does have the Death Squad, and then there are a bunch of Skaven Slaves, some Night Runner Slingers, Skaven Slave Spears, some Wolf Rats, just a whole bunch of units there. And let's go take a look out here at the Undead armies. Immediately we're going to see a Fellbat rush from the Vampires, which is honestly great, and that's along with some Carrion from Turin as well. They're going to go straight for the Jezzails, as they should, because the Jezzails were already having a big impact. The Scorpion over here was getting hurt bad. This Hyro Titan was getting hurt bad. And then Arkhan the Black, who is leading the Tomb Kings on his Chariot, was also under pretty severe threat. So this type of suicide attack is absolutely necessary. If you're going to be defeating a Skaven army that's playing this way, you have to take those out. So now we're going to see some Skeleton Warriors. I love the pick of Vargeist against the Skaven because Vargeist are actually really excellent in certain types of matchups here. You can see here that they do cause some pretty massive damage. And it looks like these guys have they been patched to have armor-piercing damage? I don't remember AP damage on them, so that seems new as well. So maybe that's a patch change or something that came in. We've got Heinrich Kembler leading the Vampires, and he's brought a nice combo of Crypt Ghouls here, which I think are a very appropriate unit. You can see Senshi having to contend with a lot of undead here on his side of the fight, including that Scorpion. And there are multiple Skeleton Archers, which are going to be causing some big damage to key targets. There's also some Rat Ogres for Senshi. I used Howling Warp Gale to hold the Vargeist at bay, at least for the moment. Trying to keep my Jezzails free for, however long they can be free, but we're under constant assault back here. Skeleton summons, Vargeist, all this stuff. It was tempting to not bring any range of this type, at least, because it would basically then make the money that they spent on their Vargeists and Basts less useful. But at the same time, if you are the Skaven, you got to have a way to deal with some of their large. And, honestly, I probably could have just traded some of this stuff for more Hell Pit. And then when you put together the fact that I've got like the Packmaster, the Unbreakable Storm Vermin, stuff like that, it becomes a real tar pit for the undead. What concerned me, though, was conceding the range fight to the Tomb Kings, which is very dangerous, because had Turin, for instance, brought a bunch of Boshabti or something like that, and I had come with single entity monsters, I would have gotten absolutely decimated. And in this case, he didn't bring that stuff. He just brought the cheaper Skeleton Archers with the idea of getting in our face fast, and then using the Skeleton Archers to help clean up some of those other units, which ends up, I think, working out pretty well in either situation, whether I bring the artillery or whether I don't bring the artillery. So I like this pick because it's a relatively safe one, and then Arkhan being on the Chariot makes him useful against a lot of different Skaven units as well. So you can see that Senshi has had to fall back closer to my position. We're in a very, very difficult fight. Now, fortunately for me, my back lines are very powerful. The unfortunate part is that I'm going to have limited tools left when this whole thing's over in order to deal with stuff like these Skeleton Archers out there. It's going to be a big problem. But, I mean, the tools that I do have, you can see are very potent. Hell Pit Abomination easily ripping through the Nehekara Horsemen, and the Skeleton Chariots, where they get caught up in here even momentarily, taking a lot of damage. You can see Krell is going to run in here. He's been hanging around in this fight. I've been trying to avoid him for as long as possible. I think I even sent some chaff at him earlier just to kind of hold him still. And I'm going to try and do the same here, because when Krell gets into the fight, you can see he starts damaging my Hell Pit Abomination really bad because of his anti-large. He's got some massive attack. So I'm going to bring this Clan Rat over to bog down Krell, and I'm just going to ignore him, and hopefully he'll go away soon enough. And you can see here the skeleton chariots still chasing these Night Runner slings. There's still some Vargeist hovering in the air behind us, the Devils of Schwarzhofen among them. So some pretty deadly units there, and especially with that AP damage, they'll be a lot more deadly on the charge. There are still some Rat Ogres. I'm making some desperation attempts to get at the archers, like with some of my regrouped units. You'll see some of these units regroup out here, and I'll start slinging them back over here trying to get archers, but you can see there's a Blood Knight and Arkhan that have been kept to protect them, so this is a very nice move by Turin. And despite taking some initial savaging from the artillery, we can see that the Hierotitan is in good shape, and the Scorpion also survived. It was chasing some units off the battlefield, apparently. See now Krell kind of getting overwhelmed now that he's been in this fight a little too long and had to take on some chaff, so we'll end up dealing with Krell. I am going to use some remoldering in order to try and keep my Hell Pit Abomination alive for as long as possible. You can see my Storm Vermin and the Council Guard obviously have been very helpful here. I've got 130 kills in this Council Guard, and they're going to be able to come back and swing into this fight. We're being charged by Blood Knights, but now comes the real problem when the Skeleton Archers arrive on site, and my Hell Pit Abomination, which is very capable of helping me tank out potentially most of this fight, if not all of it, but he can't deal with the archers, nor do I have anything to deal with the archers here. I just don't have the tools to get past Arkhan and deal with the archers, especially when there's still a few Blood Knights and stuff running around. You can see over here, despite my trying, there's just a lot of units here that we just cannot get through, like I said, at the moment. You can see the archers' combined fire here helps to rout one of the Storm Vermin, and the Hell Pit Abomination, again, getting lower on hit points. As stuff dives in, again, it's going to be extremely useful, but it's a big target. And 3 archers, not a lot of armor per se, you know, it's only 50 armor. It's going to be in some pretty rough shape. But I mean, the general, like a few general principles that I put together here did work very well against the undead. Some halberds combined with footlords with anti-large, and then an anti-large monster. It did create a tar pit back here that has been very difficult for them to tear through. However, my lack of ability to go after these skeleton archers now becomes a really big problem. So my spend on the artillery clearly didn't pan out for me, and probably would have been better spent on something that could have countered these skeleton archers. Now, like I said, that's kind of a big if, because let's say that, for instance, I brought something better at countering skeleton archers. Would those same units be good at countering Bo-Shabti or Casket of Souls that's raining all over my parade? Probably not, right? So it's an interesting trade-off here. I like the Undead as a matchup against Skaven. I think it's a good matchup because Skaven leadership, number 1 in general, is pretty low. You've got plenty of terror available to you, Hierotitan, Scorpion over here, Arkhan on his chariot. Does he cause terror? No, just fear. But still, you know, on his chariot, he's going to be very deadly against a lot of Skaven units. So I like the Undead as a pick in general for this type of fight. So you can see that we definitely killed quite a few of their units, but like I said, there's a few key units that we're just not going to be able to cut our way through because of these archers back here being alive to the very end. Look at that, 5 skeleton archers in total. That is a massive bunch of missiles, and it's going to be way more than we can handle. So Professor Pone and Turin going to take home the win here with their awesome undead legions here that were led by Arkhan and Kemmler. Kemmler was the interesting pick there. I'm assuming because summoning Krell is just fun, and picking Kemmler is also fun because why not? He has some abilities. Like, he's probably not like the premier vampire lord, but when kept at a safe distance, he's got some decent spells. He can summon up Krell, which can be pretty useful. So I mean, Kemmler is definitely he's got this Tomb Blade, you know, that can be doing some good work. So I mean, he's definitely got some tools that are useful, I think, for Kemmler. Wind of Death, you can see there, which is typically a good one. Zombies, you know, all the good stuff that you would expect from that type of lord. Anyway, we're gonna see my Storm Vermin put up their last stand here, which for Skaven is a very rare thing to see. And a valiant defeat for us. Let's head to the end screen and check out the stats here. Take a look at my army. Throt here, not able to get a good value. He's on foot. He's constantly chasing things. What you'll see, though, is that he chain routed. He wasn't killed. So again, my objective of bringing a hard-to-kill lord was successful. And this is part of the strategy here. Now, obviously, there's downsides to it if you lose the ability to stop anything mobile like I did. But you can see that Throt and his Packmaster had to be routed by chain route. And that the Council Guard was only ended up being pulled down because of the archers, right? So the principle was there in the sense that if the undead end up in just like a grind-out fight against that stuff at the end with some SEMs, they're going to be in bad shape. And that's where you're trying to get them, right? You hope that you end up in that kind of fight with them. Now, it didn't work out here. I ended up getting decent raw damage with my Warlock Engineer, but not a whole lot beyond that. And then same thing with the Packmaster. So these guys didn't end up doing anything particularly interesting. You can see, though, that even though they got shut down really early, it already picked up 3,036 damage and 522 value out of the Warplock Jezzail there, and even more so out of this one. There's a reason why the undead team suicided these things, and it's because they were going to get some massive damage done had they not been taken out quickly. Same thing with the Warp Lightning Cannon. Again, remember, probably the first 40 seconds of the battle, these units were effectively stifled, and they had already garnered up that much damage. So just, again, to show you the reasoning why you come prepared to make that suicide attack into him. The Hell Pit Abomination did do some good damage, not able to pay for itself because it wasn't able to stay alive beyond the archers. Like, clearly, if it hadn't been shot to death by archers, it could have potentially pulled its value out here. But being shot to death by archers will ruin the value on something really quick. Now, this Storm Vermin paid off, and then the Council Guard, I wouldn't say paid off, but, it was doing a good job right up until its execution at the hands of the archers. Take a look for Bat Senshi here, his units, and see what he came up with. A lot of raw damage here, but clearly it was targets that weren't very valuable. It must have been like skeleton chaff. Decent work here by these rat ogres. That's a lot of raw damage, and then damage value. It's not bad for what those units pulled out. And some of these slingers getting a little bit of work done. A lot of raw damage again here from the Death Squad, but it was, again, probably against chaff, which is why we see the value be so low. Take a look at Kembler, able to get a little bit done. This is not the kind of place where you expect to see that value. It's too bad that when making these changes, CA doesn't also add summoned units onto here, like so you can see what Krell did, for instance. So this is something that really appreciate what CA added here, and what I would say is they should go ahead and add summoned units onto here too, so we can see what happened with those. The Necromancer didn't accomplish anything here, which is great for us. Skeletons, of course. Look at this, man. There's actually quite a bit of raw damage dealt. I'm assuming that was against the Skaven slaves, essentially, because you can see a huge bunch of raw damage on all these units, but almost no value, so it has to be them crushing the Skaven slaves. Take a look here at the bats. These won't show a lot of value, but these were huge value. In fact, these were like MVP here. You all saw what my skirmishers were going to be capable of doing. So these fell bats, again, it's not going to show it here, but this is very clutch performance on their part to get that work done. And then nice performance out of the Vargeist. I'm going to have to take a relook at Vargeist. I had no idea that they had AP damage. Again, that must be something new that they've patched into there. If we take a look here, Arkhan did a great job, and consider the fact that he was barely involved in the battle for most of the time, and he still had some good stats here. And that's a good strategy, honestly, is why involve him if you don't need to? Stay back, protect the archers. The archers are going to win the battle. And so I thought that was a smart play there, and a really good play in the end. The Scorpion did a good job. Again, if I were playing against Skaven, I would have picked a Scorpion here too. So, I mean, that unit makes a lot of sense. I think the Skeletons make some good sense here. It's easier for the Skeletons to probably approach the Skaven artillery than it would be for, say, like Boshabti to end up having to stand off against Jezzails and Warp Lightning Cannons. So that choice kind of makes sense here, in my opinion, from Turin, in the sense that, hey, I don't want to bring something that is going to get shot to death at range, trying to have a shootout with the Skaven. Instead, I'll bring these 5 archer units, which the Skaven will have a very difficult time, because the Skaven do have great tools for dealing with large targets from range or artillery. However, the Tomb Kings have this other option available to them, and the fact that they can then throw in Carrion and other units to tie stuff down becomes pretty big. Look at the Chariots here, the raw damage value. So Chariots, I mean, sure, you're not going to get a huge value out of these, but it's enough. And what Chariots are great for is clearing out chaff, right? Disrupting formations and clearing out chaff. And that's exactly what these units did. So again, they had a great performance. And then the Nehekara Horsemen, just more pressure on the skirmishers, right? That's what you're doing with this whole build, is just pressure, pressure, pressure on the skirmishers. And you can see that Turin didn't build any infantry. He left that to the vampires, and the vampires did just fine, you know, in that regard, in helping provide the fodder and infantry that was needed. But anyway, great game. Enjoyed this one. Appreciate Turin joining it up. I'll have his channel linked down in the description, of course, though I doubt any of you haven't seen it. But I'll have it linked down there just in case you all want to go check it out. But appreciate him jumping by and joining in. Another fun battle from our venture this last Tuesday. If you're watching this on Thursday, January, 16th or 14th, sorry. If you're watching this on Thursday, January 14th, I will be streaming tonight at 8 o'clock US Central. I think we're going to be trying to finish the Throt campaign. So I'll be streaming some Throt campaign. Make sure to join that. I'll put an event up on my channel. Hope you all enjoyed this one. HeirofCarthage signing out for now, and I will see you all soon with some more Total War Warhammer 2 action.